Hey now.
Hey guys, Manfree here. So I'm going to quickly run through a couple of things that we've seen over the past couple of months. I think my last video was in December. I just want to talk about where we are and the details surrounding some of the dev streams and then also videos. So from some of the key highlights, the teaser video we had confirmed that the launch is going to be in 2025. I can confirm that IT testing has been going on since October. This was dropped a couple of times by different people in the Discord, so this is public knowledge for anybody that's looking. Crafting and loop confirmed in Eben stream. So what that means is that we saw some details about crafting, and then we kind of know the loop from stitching together the different things in the video. So we know people are going to go out, they're going to attack a point of interest, they're going to capture that for their realm, they're then going to gather from either the resources or materials around that POI, and then they're going to take that back to their starting city to craft. Now, there were some other details about other crafting things that Travis talked about in the Discord about having crafter classes, so we'll go into that in a minute. And then just quickly, the bring out your dev streams that they've been doing. There were 5 of those so far. You had 2 with Ken, 2 with Eben, and then 1 with Aaron. That was for sound art and then environmental art. And then just some things that are still outstanding. We don't know the exact launch date. It's going to be sometime within the holiday season, very likely. We still haven't seen the next stream that was talked about. That was supposed to include a longer stream and then also play testing. We haven't seen top 10 ish. And then we still don't know basically what other systems are planned or in, or, what's the process there. So we'll go ahead and move on from the timeline. But yeah, it's been a pretty busy Q4, honestly. Right. So moving on to the next. So just a quick update here. I don't think that there's too much. We kind of talked about building destructibility in some of the other videos. It seems that the doors were going to break and things like that. So not a big update, but yeah, the two big things that we've seen are professions. We got a big flesh out there, and then also there was a confirmation in Discord that crafters are still planned. So this they didn't say anything about Vox, but it seems that Vox and crafters are most likely still in. It doesn't seem that they're going to be in for 2025 though, so not a part of the early access release. They did talk about how all classes are going to have access generally to crafting, but you're going to want a crafter class to get a more in-depth crafting process. We don't know if that means that crafter classes are going to be able to do everything well, or if only crafters are going to be able to specialize in certain things and do the best gear. So we'll have to see what it looks like, but we did get a confirmation there that they are delayed. So big thing here is, what is the release date? I just wanted to touch on some of the key points. I grabbed this calendar for Steam releases that are coming out. It looks like the first 2 weeks of December were the big times to release. So anything with a star means that 5 or more games were being released on that day. The red arrows mean that less than 5 games were being released on that day. So some trends that you can see pretty clearly here are that almost no games are being released on the weekend, and when they are, it's only 1 or 2 games. Then, as we go through the first 2 weeks of December, we see that almost no games are being released either. This week or the third week of December, you do see a couple of days where you have 5 or more games being released, but even on the Friday and the Wednesday, you don't have it. So the trend is starting to decrease over time. As we get into the holiday season, there's only 3 or 4 games that are being released. So, what does that all mean? I think based on these trends, if you were to assume that Camelot was going to be like other releases, it would probably release this week if they were trying to do that. I think the other thing that we might see is, because it's an early access, they might wait until December 31st. There's a couple of reasons I think December 31st might be the date. If it's not this week, like this Thursday or something like that, it would probably be because they only have to wait a couple of days. Maybe they could have 1 or 2 server guys sitting for New Year's or something like that in case something catastrophic happened and it broke. And then, the whole team could enjoy their Christmas and things like that without having to worry about it. The other thing is, maybe the team, won't be taking more than just Christmas or New Year's off. So they don't see a big issue with releasing on Thursday. I'm not 100% sure which one it's going to be. If I had to guess, it'd probably be the 31st. It would give them 2 more weeks if they are going to be working at all. It would also let the team enjoy their week holiday break if they have it. So yeah, not 100% sure there. And then there's a couple of just outstanding questions. Server persistence. Persistence is a big thing. If people are going to continue to want to play. If it's really just a heavy testing environment that's not even 24/7, then yeah, most people are probably not going to be playing. They'll jump in or something like that. Maybe the hardcore players will want to be in at the ground up and they can see the systems evolve and they can kind of develop with the game. Might be the case. And then if there are wipes, how long are those going to happen? Is the early access going to be one long persistent server until they reset before full release? And how many are they going to do? Is it how long until the actual release happens? So yeah, not 100% sure there. Content plan pipeline. What other classes, zones, systems are planned? It seems like from what we've seen, they're still planning to add the other classes, the other zones. I think depths and they talked about builders are going to be in. So, we just like a little bit more clarity there, but yeah, still kind of outstanding. And then what's the full release date? That plays back into the wipes that we were talking about. Like we need to know when that is because the longer that the actual release date is planned out, the less likely people are going to be playing. If you say, "Oh, we're not going to be releasing for 5 years," then yeah, people are probably going to be a little reluctant to start testing, especially if it's not persistent. It's like this is just in beta, right? Like, I mean, why did you even release at that point? And then, there's just, I think, pertinent substantive details that we need to know about that are material to people playing. Subs, is it going to be a sub for early access? When is that coming in? Box price, what's happening there? How much are people going to be charged? How much are they going to be charged for early access? Backer benefits. There are a number of things that were promised for backer tiers and Kickstarter. So, what are those going to look like in the new system, in the new CU development? And then also, the store has not been open since September. So, been about 3.5 months that people have not even been able to get into the game. So, we'll have to see there. And then also, is it releasing on Steam? It seemed like that was planned, but now we're not too sure about it. I'm just going to quickly run through these, excuse me, through these different video clips. I'm not going to go through each of them, but you can check out the video. It's only about a minute and a half. I'll drop it in the description, but they just show off some of these effects. I think some of the feedback here was that some things look really cool, like the new ability from the Red Cat to dash through the veil. That looked really clean. There were other things like the fire explosions and some of the other effects. They looked a little dated, right? So I've talked about that through multiple videos now. The team is does seem to be iterating on these things. I know that it's going to be hard in a commercial market to release with some of these effects, but after looking at the Red Cat, I think they're moving in the right direction. I think that's really cool. And then next, we'll move on to the video that Eben released. So this is Niefelheim, the starting area for Vikings. I won't go through this map too much. I already kind of talked about most of the items here. If you want to check out some of the other videos, I do talk about the different icons and the different things that we think that you get. These are just POIs that you will collect from. Likely that these POIs are not going to have all the materials, so you're going to have to go to the RVR zones to get the better materials. So the first thing here that we saw in the video was the Royal Vendor. You can talk to this guy. He's going to basically give you daily quests. You earn gold through those daily quests. It looked like there was a PvP option, armor crafting and weapon crafting. We weren't able to see the military service or whatever that chest tab was at the bottom. So we're not really sure what details encompass each of these things. Now, one thing I hope they do change is I'd love to see this stretched out over a month, right? Like let people, when they're on the weekends, if they're just weekend players, they can log on to the weekend and they can do their week's worth of dailies, right? And they can accumulate the same amount of progress. Yes, they're not going to be on that same dopamine drip feed that you get for making people play every day, but at the same time people don't want to play every day, right? Like you don't have to you don't have to make people psychologically want to do it. If the game is fun, people will psychologically want to play it now. There's plenty of Dark Age and War private servers that people play on, and most of them they don't do dailies there, right? You can just PvP. They're just there to have fun. So yeah, I don't think I would like to see this maybe fleshed out a little bit more, but we'll see. I'm not 100% sure what they have planned. Next was the Viking banking vendors. So it looks like you can just store items here. Eben did say that you could store gold here, but I kind of think he might have been thinking about the guild bank because why would you need to store gold in the bank if you can just keep it on your character, right? Like you're duplicating that at that point. I don't think it's necessary. But if you have a guild bank, then yeah, maybe you do want to have gold. Maybe there's a house that you can buy, something like that. So we'll see. And then gold in general is mentioned a few times throughout the video, but we don't really even know what gold is for at this point. Could speculate on maybe you need it for using the auction house or some other thing, but it seems like the vast majority of items are crafted through players. So it'll be interesting to see what the gold actually ends up being used for. Maybe housing, like I mentioned before. Just another quick look at the inventory and character sheets. There's a couple of UI updates here, so just wanted people to see it, but we've covered this in previous videos. Also, another thing is it looks like the bag icon is there, so it does seem that inventory is not based on strength anymore, but it's based on inventory slots. Or, excuse me, I mean, it is inventory slots, but bank slot or bag slots. So you can just put those bags into the slots and then you have access to that inventory. So, from what we've seen, seems to be the case. Next was just a quick UI. They added it so that you can see experience. This was in Dark Age. This was in WoW, a bunch of different things. So you can just see the 3 different tiers that you have. It looks like each class has 3 different specializations that they will level up. And then there's a more general tier, and then also crafting, which is separate. So yeah, seems pretty basic. And then next, they went into some of the UI customizations. I thought this was super cool. I love this. Uh, as an older school gamer, it's nice to not have to mod some of this stuff in. You can customize it in your own way. We'll have to wait until everybody can get into the game and they do the full release. Like I said, I have been in some of the testing, but we're not really 100% sure what we have access to, right? So I've seen some things, but I haven't seen everything. It'll be interesting to see what this kind of breaks down to. I loved what we saw here, though. Love the customization options. And then finally, we're getting to the last, I don't know, a couple of minutes here. The big thing is crafting. Eben, in his stream, he dropped what each station was. He also dropped, he went through each one in the video in Niefelheim. So you'll be able to do this in the other cities as well. And we'll just quickly run through it. So I just categorized each of these things. So we have the gathering, refining, and crafting options. You have fishing, herbalism, hunting, logging, mining, and prospecting. Under gathering, for refining, you have enchanting, gem cutting, sawing, smelting, tanning, and weaving. And then for crafting, you have alchemy, armor smithing, artificing, cooking, jewel smithing, leatherworking, tailoring, weaponsmithing, and woodworking. So these are all just different crafting options now that we know that are confirmed. I'm not sure that these are going to be all fleshed out by the time early access comes, but at the very least, they should be coming in short order. So we'll quickly run through the UI. Most of these things were in. There were just a couple that I saw weren't in from the video. 2 quick things on the first one that we'll talk about that kind of flow through the rest are the qualities and probabilities. So we could see that there were 8 different qualities. It seems like items are going to have that. We're not sure if that's every item, but it seems like weapons and armor will have a variation of 1 through 8. That's probably going to be dictated by the quality of resources that you use, and then some kind of chance to craft that item. We also saw, related to this, the boost reagents. Now, I didn't see any icons that were lit up. This might be added later, but it seems like you're going to be able to alter the probability that you'll get that, not only by the quality of items, but then also maybe by this boost reagent. I don't know exactly how that's going to work, but wanted to call it out on the first one so that as we see it in the rest. So the big thing here is we have sawing and then also woodworking. It seems that sawing is just going to be your basic lumber reagents. Maybe if they continue down the road and add cube, then you'll be able to do that. And then also woodworking seems to be like your regular kind of wood weapons. So it seems like bows and instruments. I thought maybe staves, but I think staves are not going to be used. I think that's going to be one of the other ones. Now, you have textile, which is just going to be your cloth armor and cloaks. And then weaving is going to be some kind of textile reagents. You have leatherworking, which seems to be leather armor. And then tanning is going to be your leather reagents. And I'm guessing probably some of your heavy armor reagents. So, usually when you're crafting metal armor, you need like leather straps. And that's a super common thing throughout a lot of games. So, probably going to have some of that. And then smelting is just where you're refining your ore. So a lot of ingots, right? Like whether you're making iron or copper or whatever, you're going to be doing that. You'll probably need this for your jewel crafting and your armor smithing and really just most things. And then moving on, so we saw gem cutting and jewel smithing. The big things here are jewel smithing, you're going to be making your accessory items, whether it's earrings or necklaces or whatever. And then gem cutting, you're going to be doing gems. And then uh, we didn't get to see in the video the armor smithing or the weapon smithing, but like I said, it was stated in his original icon, so we can just infer some of that stuff. As armor smithing is just going to be your like probably your heavy and medium armor, maybe some shields, and then weapon smithing is probably going to be your accessories or your earrings, stuff like that. Excuse me, not earrings. It's going to be your weapons, right? So your swords, your axes, all that kind of stuff. Sorry, having a brain fart there. And then artificing. So, we saw that that's going to be your caster weapon. So in Dark Age, fletching, you just made stabs, but it seems like here they're going more for that thematic, like, well, yeah, you have a weapon that's wooden, but really, and maybe you'll, sawing or something will give you an input, but really you need to magically imbue that to make it the actual weapon. So yeah, adding a second tier of production there, which makes sense, right? So for example, like weapons would probably need straps or whatever as well. So yep, makes sense. And then enchanting, this one was not populated, so we're not sure if like it's not in yet, but this is probably like buffing your gear. And then the two that we saw but we didn't really get a good idea of were alchemy and cooking. There wasn't any recipes there. The big guess here is cooking is probably for like passive health regeneration, like in WoW. If you're out of combat, you want to get your health back quickly, probably something there. Could be for reagents, so you're crafting something else. Maybe you need some cooking, and then also it could be a buff. And then alchemy, probably like potions, like health potions in combat, mana potions, super common stuff, maybe some items or other reagents. So anyway, guys, that was basically it for the videos. Two things that I wanted to quickly go over. I think in one of the last videos I called the Viking heavy fighter the Mjolnir. I think it's Mjolnir. Anybody that's seen the Marvel movies should probably know that. Any of my German guys probably laughing at that. My pronunciation is terrible. And then Storm Riders are Arthurian. They are not Viking. I don't know what I was thinking. Like the GUI is very explicit that they're Arthurian. I've seen some of the other lore that they're Arthurian. I don't know what I was doing there. I think just trying to get these videos out in conjunction with my family life and my work life and all that kind of stuff. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them down in the comment section. I really enjoy like taking a look at those every couple of days just to see if anybody adds anything. It's a nice kind of venue to chat about stuff. So yeah, just let me know. Thanks for watching the video. And then if you want to see some of the other videos, feel free to check those out. I go through some of the other information in more detail. So yep, thank you. Bye.